Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of Two Mums Talking About Death. I'm here with Yvonne, and today we've got hi Yvonne, and today we've got both of our partners, Simon. Hello, Simon.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, and Gustavo.
Hello, good
Hello,
morning.
Gustavo. So yes, as we said, for this series, we are talking of all different all the people that have supported us in different walks of life, friends, family, friends of our children, counselors, that kind of thing. And today we're talking to our partners, and we thought it'd be really interesting to get their point of view of the kind of support that they've had as well. So we're kicking off. So I wanted to ask you what sort of support you had outside of immediate family in the first. Actually, it'd be quite interesting to hear about family as well. But what kind of support you had outside of immediate family in the first few months? Gustavo, do you want to sort of talk about? Because I know that you, the first few months, you were signed off work for quite a while, weren't you? And you were you were upstairs. Watching a lot of Netflix and sort of talking to your family and friends, basically.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I was off for since February the 19th, and I went back um, early July, sort of early mid-July. And the support that I got from work was really good from all my colleagues. Uh, and especially for management, which is sometimes unusual
Yeah.
the circumstances. They set up a counseling,
Hmm.
which started in September through the NHS, because social services and NHS, we work hand in hand. It was very easy for my manager to look at the right place, at the right counseling. So yeah, from September 2020 onwards, and for the next nearly 2.5 years,
Wow.
I had a counselor, a really good counselor, which unfortunately she left to set up her own clinic, basically. So yeah, that's the most immediate
But how often did you have?
professional
Yeah,
help.
how often? It every other week, or
It
I can't remember
it's
how.
it started almost. It was on a weekly basis when the counseling started, and then we sort of spaced it out um, every 2 to 3 weeks, and then we met up as the time progressed. We set up a monthly sessions, which were quite generous. My counselor went even over the time to to keep discussing issues, and she was really good. It was really good.
What
So
about
did
you?
you have to pay for any of these, or was this just provided for free through your work?
Yeah. It was an NHS colleague. Uh,
Wow.
since we are we work pretty much hand in hand with NHS social services. It was provided as part of this as part of the staff. So yeah, it was really good, really good. It
What
did.
about you,
It,
Simon?
Yeah.
What did you find? You had a different experience, I think.
Yeah, totally the opposite. My work were very quick to sort of let me know that there was an employee support program, which I then reached out to, and I was then sort of assessed as to what the next step would be from their side. I was then put in touch with a counsellor who, at the time, it was all on Teams, so he was in Wales, I think, and he did that initial assessment, and then they scheduled. I think I could have 10 counselling sessions
Yeah.
for free, as I understood it, and I think from the first or even the second one, I soon realised it was actually more about getting me back to work rather than supporting me through challenge that that I was going through at the time. It was more about just this is how we're going to get you back to work. I think that it was the questions he started to ask which alarmed me, and he actually stopped the sessions and said, I don't think we're getting anywhere here. I think we need to sort of let you carry on as you are for the minute and then come back to this.
So it's more like
Questions.
occupational health, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was literally, did you like work and things like that. I was like, I didn't realise this was sort of down to whether I liked work or not. This was down to personal tragedy in my life, and I need to sort of help to get sort of, yes, okay, I suppose I do need help to get back to work at some point, but initially it was more about counselling me through this and providing some sort of guidance and support and, you know, to have someone to talk to, but it was far from that. And I never went back.
Do you think that was it just sort of a general kind of back to work person that they sent you to, rather than somebody with any training in this kind of area? Yeah. Mm.
I had no idea about sort of he was not a bereavement counsellor, not at all.
Yeah.
And as I say, I think I had 4 appointments with him. I don't think it was any more than that, and I never started it back up again. Never did it.
How long were you off work for?
Initially it was circa 5 or 6 weeks. So we were off from the sort of 15th of September, and then I went back. I think it was very late October, early November. It was, but it was a phased return. So I only went back initially. I think it was 1 or 2 days a week.
That was like me. It was around about Christmas, wasn't it?
About the same time. And then when it got into the new year, it sort of stepped up a bit. And then with agreements, sort of, if it stepped up, I worked from home rather than in the office. You know, if it was 3 days in, it was 2 of those might be in work, 1 at home. And then I had it agreed that I'd do 2 days a week working from home. I think that from a, you know, just recalling what experience I had with work, I don't think they really handled it very well. I think they were quite sort of happy to just sort of not say anything, and that was the best policy, really. No one really sort of, you know, looked after me as such in a way, or sort of put their arm around me as, you know, the sort of hypothetical arm around me and say, come on, let's go and get a coffee. And I do recall, actually, whilst I mentioned that people would say, oh, let's get a coffee. Yeah, see you tomorrow, this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And then you'd get a message at 10 to 2. Sorry, mate, caught in a meeting. We'll have to reschedule. And that just went on and on and on. And in the end, I just sort of gave up on it. And,
Well, do you think that was because they were uncomfortable? They just didn't know?
I don't think they were uncomfortable. I just think they just didn't realise the severity of actually saying, I'll meet you for coffee, and then letting me down.
Yeah.
In the end, I sort of thought, well, I'm not going to ask. I'm not going to push for it.
And I often wonder whether that's the difference between the private sector and the public sector, because, like I spoke to before, I work in the public sector in education, and I found that although there was some lessons to be learned, there was a lot of empathy. And Gustavo, what you're saying about the people that you could reach out to, that would you agree that I don't know why there should be a difference, but you obviously had a much better experience than Simon.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I was most impressed, apart from the support that I was provided, and not being rushed, as opposite to Simon, to go back to work, was the fact that the whole thing, it caused such an impact on all the workforce that my colleagues were made available counselling sessions as well. Because there's a lot of mums, mainly mums, but there's also a lot of fathers, brothers, sisters, and they all felt you know, that it could have happened to them, you know. So I was really impressed that they put in place counseling sessions for my colleagues as a result of what happened to me.
And they came round, all your colleagues came round, I remember.
One evening they came with food, and completely different opposite as your experience, Simon.
But again, I worked for a small startup company, and they were really good as well. They were the ones that helped me with counselling, and the colleagues were really good, and they came to the funeral, some of them. So I don't know if it's bigger. I know it's the nature of a particular organization or the
Yeah,
people,
maybe,
the
because
people
you'd
there as
think
well.
companies would be more set up financially as well, that they would have these, but maybe it's because they haven't come across it. I don't know, but I do think that there definitely seems to be some kind of like gap.
I
Yeah.
just think it's training as well. I think perhaps the training's better in sort of public sector than private sector.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember we were asked, I think it was after Jack died, we were asked, or people were asked who would sort of fancy doing mental health first aider training. And I actually put myself up for it because I thought, you know what, I reckon with what we're going through, it must have been after Jack died. I thought to myself, I could do that. I actually think I could sit down and talk to people quite well and be quite sort of good at the role and supporting people. And I didn't get selected, but the person that did, given that they knew what I was going through, never ever once said, how are you getting on? Do you fancy coming or anything like that? They didn't once. They didn't. That training was just a tick box exercise for somebody. And, you know, and I do recollect one thing that I kind of forget. You forget what people say, but nowadays sometimes these conversations sort of jerk your memory. And I remember being sort of asked one day by my line manager. He said to me, "How are you doing?" I was, how you doing in work was more the case. And I was, I think I'm doing all right. And he said, right. He said, thing is, he said, if you want to be off, then I suggest you're off, sort of like you go back off sick, sort of thing, go to your doctors, or if you're here, then the business expects 100%.
Wow.
He said, unfortunately, that's the nature of it all. And I was a bit stumped by what he said, and it was only afterwards I thought, well, hold on a minute. So what they'd rather me be is then signed off for months on end, perhaps, where they're paying me in full, or and doing nothing to sort of support the business as such out of what they're paying me, or be at work and actually I do something constructive where they're actually earning money off of me being there. And I found that very insensitive for one, and just as a manager for that person being a manager, I just thought, really, you just don't know. You just have no idea what you've just said.
And the thing is, we've learned that we have to take how we feel at the time, and people could say that we went back to work earlier than most people would expect, but that's what we needed at the time. I was starting to get the feeling that the house was suffocating us and it was stopping us going out. So going to work was a distraction, albeit that we did do it part-time. And that's the thing, people need to know that we are the only ones that can say what we need, and we just need people to be that, show that empathy, don't we? So
I definitely, for me, that work was like really important to have that kind of, that kind of automatic, doing your work kind of thing, to block out thinking, I just felt I was going to go down and down and down, and I wouldn't have anything, and I needed something that I could just completely switch off, and I could do my job, but I, but 100%. I mean, how can you give nobody gives 100% all the time. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, you can only give 100% of what you can give. So if it's 25%, but you give 100% of that 25%, that's 100%. But it's interesting that you've both had completely polar opposite experiences. And Gustavo, you mentioned about your friends, and they came to your work colleagues, and we know you've spoken about your friends before, and they've obviously been really supportive, haven't they?
Yeah. Yes, they've been. Yes, I mean, I think there's even now, 5 years down the line, I mean, I still get asked how I am, and how is the family, how are the girls, how is Gael, how is Bandy. That makes you feel that they think about you, and
Yes.
you know, there's things more important than you know, work and the circumstances that you are living and you will be living forever, you know.
Mhm.
They are you know, they shaping you in a way, you know, how you're going to move on forward, you know.
But your friends, you know, you have such close friends from Spain. Gustavo has a lot of friends from school days, and you know they are in constant. You know, you
Yeah,
go has um goes away with some of his friends every now and again, don't you?
yeah,
And they talk. They really talk about all the, you know, some of them have gone through awful things, and they just talk about stuff.
yeah.
Um,
That side as well has been very, very good.
mm.
The fact that I have friends that I know. I mean, talking to a friend recently, we were going back, and we known each other for the last 45 years,
Wow.
you know, and like those, like this particular chap, I've got, you know, some of them, you know, and yeah, I mean, they brilliant. I mean, there's nothing bad that I can say about them at all. You know, they've been
Well,
there.
it's your safe space. It's your safe group where
Yeah,
you feel
yeah,
quite
yes,
comfortable
yes.
talking, and because people can bring in their own experiences,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't feel that the focus is all on you either. So,
We it was really funny because recently, as Mandy was saying, we after 5 years absence, I've got these three friends that we get together every year and we choose a place to go for a weekend, you know, and and we end up seeing ourselves one evening, all in our PJs, not wanting to go out. We went to the supermarket, we got some food, all in our PJs, watching the rugby, and 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 we end up, you know, laughing, crying, um, you know, and it's really very powerful, you know, when you
yeah.
think about when you reflect on that, you know.
And that's what you usually associate with the women, because one thing that we found, and I know that sometimes I felt that I was the one that was leading in, you know, oh, I need to get support, and we need to find other people that are going through what we're going through, because I I felt that I was panicking that there was nobody that knew or could even remotely be associated with what we were going through. So we went to, I remember early on, didn't we, Salma? We went to that early face to face, yeah, with Compassionate Friends, and it was in a hall, and we had to sit around a circle and say, you know, what had happened, but there was. It was primarily women, wasn't it? There were a couple of dads, but they were quite further on. I think some of them were like 20 years down the line. How did you feel about the group sessions?
Well, we only went to that once because I think we came away from it sort of, I suppose, kind of felt a little bit guilty, really, because whereas some of them were 20 years down the line, we were talking about how we've discovered thousands of photographs on Jack's phone, and obviously we've got thousands of photographs and things like that. And there were two. Well, there was the lady that ran the group and her husband, and then there was another guy there, and they had both lost their sons sort of 20 odd years ago. In both of them actually died abroad, and they were then, where we mentioned about the photos, they were then talking about what their sons had been doing, and then how they basically had a few packs of 6x4 photographs. And I immediately felt a little bit sort of guilty, but at the same time blessed that we had so many photographs and memories and such like. I didn't really get much from the group, if I'm honest. I don't know. There's certain people that you can talk to and certain people you can't, and I just think that we slammed up a little bit, didn't we? And then I had another call with Compassionate Friends where it was just dads on the call, from varying, you know, all in varying sort of lost loved ones in varying circumstances. And
But wasn't that children? They'd all lost their children though.
Yeah, some it had been to sort of illness, cancer, typically.
Rather than brothers and sisters is what I mean. Like
Yeah. But I mean, I can't recollect it was sort of, you know, obviously 3 years ago or more. But that was actually quite good. There was a guy that messaged me independently of that and just said, you know, if you ever want to sort of talk and catch up. And I suppose you don't really want to talk about it all the time, you know.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about Jack all the time. That's the thing. That's the thing I find is that I want sort of Jack to be part of the conversation. It can. I know it's difficult for people. It's difficult enough for us because you can't sort of talk about him in a present day situation. You can only talk about him in the past, but you try and sort of do that with some people, and that's
bring him along with you. You're bringing him.
That's kind of what gives me a little bit of comfort if we are talking about Jack and that, and even if it is stories, you know, which so be it. That's what we can do, and I like to talk about him, and I talk about him with work colleagues, even if perhaps they don't, you know, may not be interested. I still talk about him, and sometimes they're, you know, you don't get the impression that they want to walk away. They're listening, which is a good thing, and I think that's probably, without me realizing it, that's a little bit of my own sort of personal therapy.
Are you? What about family and friends? Are you able to?
I don't have I don't have a large friendship group. I mean, I used to years ago. I think that once we had children, I became very much a family man. I didn't drop friends, but, you know, family's hugely important to me. And I think, given, you know, probably a conversation for another day, but given my upbringing and how I felt that family status was, I wanted to do something far, far better and be a better dad and husband. And I suppose I just sort of got engrossed in that. And we did, you know, obviously, we did go out with friends and holiday with friends and things, but I didn't maintain that friendship group. So some of the guys, you know, that I was pals with at the time of Jack dying, they'd sort of message you and they'd kind of be there, but then at the same time, I think they didn't realise it, that they were also doing things that just, you know, cheesed you off, really. And you just thought, why are you saying that, or why are you doing that, or why are you being a letdown? And so I became unreliant on them, if you know what I mean. I just sort of let that slide. I had to. I'm not one to force people to be there for me, or we're not really like that at all. Family wise, again, I'm youngest of 5 children. I think one of the early calls we had with Road Peace, they asked me about family support, and I said I'm one of the youngest of 5, yet I might as well be an only child. That was kind of what I said then, and there's something I've not said often, but if people ask me, that's what I say, is because it is very much like that. They're not there, which again goes back to sort of the point that people aren't educated. You can't force them to understand and know. But then one of my sisters, she lost her husband 11 years ago now, tragically. He took his own life. I felt I was very much there for her. I do realise now that I perhaps could have done a bit more. But at the time, you felt like you did your best. I suppose my now expectation of her, I look at that and think, well, actually, I should be able to expect you to be there for me and more, because you should understand and realise what you went through and perhaps what your expectations for people were, and know that if that's what you expect, you should know that's what you should deliver upon for people, and be there. And
Do you think, because that's what I sometimes think, is that whatever your role in the family is, whatever happens to you, that role is still your role. So for example, if I'm with friends and stuff like that, if I'm usually the person who gets in touch and sets up, you know, like, let's meet up and all that kind of stuff, I'm still that person. If I'm the person in the family that's the one that looks out for other people, or, you know, that's my role, it's very difficult to undo that role, I think, sometimes, even whatever happens. Somehow the roles take over. I don't know if I'm explaining myself.
Yeah, I know what you mean. For me, it's because I'm the youngest. My elders all look at me as if I sort of owe them something, or I should be the first one to sort of speak and sort of be there for them. You know, to the point where my oldest brother actually came around and he called us out, didn't we, on our conduct, and said about, you know, he questioned my conduct towards him, sort of put himself in a position of, if you like, need.
Yeah,
It was quite a difficult time.
It was difficult, yes.
But I think you're right, Mandy, because we said this before, that if you're the organizer, that doesn't go away, and that's kind of like we've spoken about this, Simon, haven't we? When we've said, you know, we need to get back into that flow of, you know, inviting people or inviting ourselves, and you know, we have been meeting up with your sister, haven't we? And it's lovely, and when we're together, it's so nice. But again, I think because they don't understand that, you know, we're the people that are suffering, and actually it would be really good if you could just contact us or phone us, and even if we don't get back to you, keep doing it, keep phoning, keep contacting us.
yeah.
Because sometimes our minds just go blank, but you know.
I think that because we used to be like having people over and stuff like that. Gustavo loves cooking and whatever, and definitely you don't feel that way anymore. It's almost like because we had COVID straight after as well, and we were very, you know, with our immediate family, and we were very much focused on them. And I feel like this is our kind of safe space kind of thing, and almost we don't want to invite, you know, we don't want to go, we're not inviting people round like we used to. But I think that that's because this is our place to escape from everything.
Yeah.
What do you think?
How do you feel, Gustavo, so our lives have changed. So how do you feel about your kind of like your life now? What are the differences? I know Mandy's spoken about, you know, friends, keeping friends, not being so, I don't know, entertaining. What's your take on that?
That's a good question. Well, definitely it's change in all sorts of ways. And linked to what Mandy was saying about having this safe space, probably not as much as Mandy, but I feel I'm for the last 5 years, I felt more weary about our children, more worried of what they do and how they do it and where they're going. And I don't know. I mean,
Anxious
anxious,
about
anxiety,
this could
anxiety.
be the last time. This
You
could
know,
be,
I
you know.
think about death more often, if not on a daily basis, almost on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Not only to myself, but it worries me more about Mandy. I feel quite anxious every Wednesday when she goes to Cambridge.
Yeah, I have to text him to tell him I've got there.
You know,
Okay.
whereas in the past, you know, I say, "Oh, lovely, have a good day," but there's a sense of anxiety inside of me. There's a sense of anxiety every time the phone goes and is one of the girls. On Friday, last Friday, gone, Gail ended a spell of 2 weeks of exams, solid, and he went out with his mates to Westfield. And in the back of my mind, I thought, no, everything is going to be all right. But now there's always this thing back of your mind, more accentuated than it was before.
Yeah.
Years ago, you know, and I had to say myself, look, he'll be fine. He's with his mates. There's a good group, you know, there's 9 of them. Everything will be all right. But it took me a while to sort of get to that point to say, look, don't worry.
Yeah. And
Everything...
it's hard because your instinct as a parent is to protect your children.
Yeah.
But we're now in that we're trying to have that balance between, you know, protecting Nadia and you know, looking out for her, and you know, making sure that she's letting us know where she's going, and also letting her live her life without worrying about us worrying about her, and it's hard to juggle, isn't it? Someone, we spoke about this earlier this morning, didn't we?
But I think she gets it. She does get it without us actually having to say too much. I think she understands, or I read that she understands our perspective, and we're not, you know, we could wrap her up in cotton wool, we could keep her indoors, never let her out, but you know, like you say, she's got to go out. She has to go to work. She's got to have friendships. She goes out of an evening. She's an outgoing person, and I don't want to stem that. And I think that would be wrong of us to do that. We have to let her, get on. But I think she understands the fact that we need to know where she is. It's not from a nosiness perspective, but it's from just peace of mind, I suppose, comfort that if she's
just one text message. Well, that's all I say.
Yeah. And I've even said
okay, or a thumbs up or something.
Exactly. And if she's gone out late at night and she's sort of coming home, it's like, how are you getting home? You're going to be okay. Let us know if you're not. And she knows that we're not bothered if she comes home at 2:00 in the morning and has to rattle on the door. I'm not bothered. Just I suppose pleased that she's come home, really.
There's always one that she can call if she was ever stuck or something.
And she does phone.
Do you think because I think that the kids as well, they worry the same way that we worry about them, they worry about us as well. And like I know that Maya didn't want to go in cars, that Gael used to pull me away from the edge of pavements and things like that. And I just so it kind of works both ways. We're all in it together.
It's just I suppose it's just navigating their because they're not teenage, but they're still young adults, even though they're in their early 20s. But it's still trying to navigate what is a natural process of them being teenagers and 20 somethings, and whether they've been affected by what's happened to them. And I know Mandy and I, we've both spoken saying that sometimes we say, well, how are you? Are you okay? And then you kind of like get that, yes, I'm absolutely fine. Stop asking me. And I suppose we have to realise that they're still growing. They're still maturing. But it's a hard journey, isn't it, with the children?
Yeah, and I think what you said, Simon, about sort of wanting to talk about Jack and keep him in your life. I mean, how do you, apart from, talking about him and everything, there's other things that I guess as the time goes by, which is a horrible thing that time has to go by, but you find ways of like things that you do on a annual base, like birthdays or things that you do, like you did a sponsored bike ride, didn't you? Things that you that give you a sense that you're with Jack because you're doing that.
I do. I mean, I do sort of. There's certain things I do that I try and sort of bring Jack or imagine him with me. Just bring him along in whatever I'm doing. But I'd sort of use things that I know that if he was with us, that he would be there, rather than imagine him doing something with me that he'd have never been part of. So I mean, I do, as you know, I love cycling. It's something I haven't lost a passion for, but I've sort of over the last several months I've not been out that much just because of work and home life commitments. But the intention is still to get back out there, and it does feel good to do that. And I suppose in a way I probably do sort of carry Jack with me when I'm doing that. It's just certain things I never sort of, if you like, it's normally just sort of an unannounced moment where I sort of think, oh, Jack would love this, or I might sort of I've openly spoken to Jack, sort of, perhaps going to be mad at work or something, but I do. And I'm not a very religious person, so That's a sort of a difficult side for me to work with, but I do still like to think that Jack's around and, you know, keeping a good eye on us and you know, checking in and just being around us just generally. And I think it sort of, bizarrely, it sort of can lift my mood a little bit here and there.
Yeah. Gustavo, you talk to Anisha, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. From very early stages, I found myself, yeah, talking to her, explaining all sorts of things, how you know, Mum Carrie continues to be working endlessly, about her sisters, about her brother, how he's growing up, about her family back in Spain, all sorts of things. I found myself recently, you know, I mean, it happens almost on a daily basis, but yeah, it's a way to keep it with me, and we all have different ways, you know, and
Yeah.
you know, and thinking about her constantly and talking and talking about her. I always find that um, it was very comforting, and it helped me talking about her, bringing her into the conversation, as you were saying, Simon, keeping her alive, like you keep Jack alive, you know, and bring her every single aspects of your life, basically.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Sadly, it's like we come to the end of the time, and but we can talk forever, and we will.
Yes, we'll definitely have to repeat this, because I think there's so much more that we can talk about, and we're so grateful to you guys to come on this. We know it's been difficult, but again, we hope that it will reach out to other people and other dads, and give them a sense that they're not on their own, and there is people out there that get it, that truly get it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Thank you.